Kansas begins its 2025-2026 season with a home game against Green Bay. Green Bay, coached by Doug Gottlieb, won 4 games last year. His second season, surely looking for a better campaign this time around. I am joined today by Matt Maderno, one of our new contributors to Sleepers Media for this season. And Matt told me ahead of pressing the record button that he had a topical themed Halloween costume that he would be debuting on camera. I'm trying to guess it. I might need a hint,
Can
Matt.
does this remind you of anybody from last year? I don't know if you can see how sweaty I am. I am sweaty Doug Gottlieb from last year. This is sweaty as I could get beforehand, but I
That's
figured
incredible.
bring the
Incredible.
heat as Mr. Gottlieb here. I figured he'd
What
appreciate
did
it.
did you like what did you do to that shirt? Did you just douse it in water or did you
Yeah.
act okay.
No,
I was gonna
I
say
hosed it down. I went for a 10-mile run beforehand is what I should say.
if you did like even a light workout in that for dedication to the bit, I respect it a ton. But yeah, I was gonna say like I could tell it was something coaching related. You did a great job on the execution with the tie too. Like the
Thanks,
shirt,
man.
all of that matches. Very impressive
It's
for your debut.
pretty close, right? That's not too far off.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see if Gottlieb can control his perspiration a little bit more this season, not having to figure out coaching a basketball team on the fly while also hosting a radio show and doing who knows how many other media tasks.
I don't
But
think he's gonna get a reprieve in this game, unfortunately.
yeah, I don't either. Even looking so far, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, Kim has the spread right now set as Kansas minus 29. I think the Jayhawks will ultimately end up rolling to victory, but that doesn't mean you should tune out of this preview because Kansas has so many question marks on this roster, but not in a bad way. I'll put it that way. Like I'm when you say question marks, a lot of times that has negative connotations, but I would almost say it's more so of just I'm curious to see what this guard rotation looks like, who steps up alongside Darren Peterson, what do they get out of their front court that has tremendous size in terms of just like bulk across the board, whether you're looking at Bryson Tiller or Flory Badunga or Paul Mbuya. But how do they all mesh together? Who can you play together? Lineup combinations, everything like that. That I believe this game will give us a little bit of clarity into. But Matt, I'm going to start with you. What are you most hoping to learn about Kansas from this game?
I'm just kind of curious if this is a collection of dudes all trying to get to the league or like a real team. I know maybe that sounds a little cliche, but you had Flory almost leave because he wanted to go to Auburn and make more money or get featured more, and he was kind of PO'd. He came off the bench last year. You've
Mhm.
got Peterson, Tiller, Rosario. All those guys are trying to get to the league. You've got Trey White talking about he's finally with a good coach after leaving Brad Underwood. Like it just seems like there's some weird stuff here. And then Jaden Dawson talking about he wanted to leave Loyola Chicago to go somewhere where he could be featured more on the ball. I've got like an unfortunate update for Mr. Dawson here. He's not going to be featured on ball more on a team with Darren Peterson. So the vibes could be a little weird here, I think, depending on how this goes.
Yeah, Dawson is one of those guys who we actually did a reaction video when he said something about how he thought he would have more NBA eyeballs on him playing next to Darren Peterson, and I gave a quote that was like, "They come for DP, but they stay for JD,"
Yeah,
which
there you
is
go, baby. No.
which I don't know how accurate that's gonna be, but I was a big fan of his game, even just like someone who shot, I believe, 36% from three on 7 attempts per game, and thought that could even be more efficient had he not battled injuries really throughout his campaign. And I kind of thought he profiled as this guy who was going to slide in next to Peterson as this play finisher, as a lethal catch and shoot threat, who could also occasionally attack a closeout. And you see some of his dunks at Loyola, and there's something there with athleticism. But then you look at the exhibition game against Louisville, and he played 3 minutes, and I don't think he did anything other than grab a rebound. So that I think the backcourt probably feels a little more fascinating to me than the front court, even though both have questions about roles and everything. I think you're going to see a lot of Cole Rosario. It seems like everything we've heard from this past summer. I mean, I had CJ Moore on a video back in August, I want to say, and he seemed to think that the staff was really, really high on Cole Rosario, and you saw it play out with him earning a start, and even just how quickly they closed on him this summer as like, hey, we need help on the wing. You're our guy. But after him and Peterson, I'm like, How much are they going to try to play him alongside Melvin Council? He shot 1 for 9 against Louisville. Do you give Marco Jackson a longer leash and see if you can get something out of him? I mean, he played 27 minutes that game, can give you that athletic rim pressuring presence, but I don't know what else you're going to get from him. There's just like I see a vision where it all works out, crafted around Darren Peterson. But I think a lot of these backcourt guys still I want to see someone like seize the opportunity here.
Bill Self's going a little crazy with the comps this offseason too. Peterson's the most talented player he's ever coached. He said Melvin Council reminds him of Tyshawn Taylor, that Cole Rosario reminds him of Christian Brown. Like there's a lot of these kind of high praise comments coming at him. So I would expect those guys to start around him. I think they started in that exhibition game you mentioned against Louisville. Against, I want to say they played Fort Hays State or whoever that is in their second exhibition, and guys like Dawson played more. So
Mhm.
I think it's still TBD, kind of what the rotation looks like, but it does look like they're going to lean pretty heavily on Trey White, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. It just sort of depends
Mhm.
on the night with somebody like White.
Yeah, I would even say with White, like, I mean, you watch those Bryson Tiller highlights, his tape pops to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think something even that, like, he could offer you that Trey White doesn't. I think he's got a little bit more skill in terms of even just playmaking, passing, those types of chops, just a better feel for the game to
Mhm.
where I get that they've gassed up Trey White a lot. And you mentioned the Trey White sound bites about coming into a better situation, a better coaching staff. I kind of just have a feeling about Tiller though. Like, I mean, go watch that baseline drive he had against Louisville where he finished like his it looked like he's 5 feet above the rim,
Yep.
you know? Like Trey White's not going to give you that, and I don't know if White has enough, let's say, skill even as a shooter. I know he can knock down some step in threes. He I think he actually don't have his percentage in front of me, but he is, I would say, competent from beyond the arc, but I don't know if he is good enough that like he could separate himself that much from Bryson Tiller, who could be breathing down his neck, like looking to take his minutes. But yeah, do you have anything else you're wanting to see out of this front court?
Yeah, Self mentioned that he sees Tiller as more of a four who could play the five if they needed to. So that's really a question for me is there's a lot of like unproven guys here. Like Tiller did the half year kind of redshirt thing. Badunga came off the bench almost exclusively last year. And Bia, who knows what he really is for you. So can they survive an injury to either Tiller or Badunga or foul trouble? Not that this like is really going to come up a whole lot, I think, against Green Bay, but they've got a skilled forward that they played at the five last year in Marcus Hall. He's like 6'6" and kind of a stretch wing, but they may play him some as the five. So could he stretch Flory away from the basket enough to maybe pick up a cheap foul or two? And I don't know,
Hmm.
just things get a little weird if they don't have him out there. But I'm with you on Tiller. I think the two of them looked good together as these sort of dual vertical spacers at the very least.
Yeah.
And Bill Self's been lethal when he's got two post options to feed it into. So I do like that combo kind of more long term.
And I would even say we haven't seen it a ton. Like, I mean, granted, we haven't seen it at all at the college level or even looking at the few exhibitions that Bryson played. But I just go back to the OTE tape where I see a world where it works out where you have that classic, the classic staples of a Bill Self offense where you're getting Flory Badunga the ball off of like a post pin down where he's sealing his man, and you have Bryson at the top of the key feeding him, and you can work that high-low game because I think Tiller has that in his bag
Mhm.
to at least develop more to be like a playmaking oriented, let's say 4 or 5 in that capacity. So yeah, I don't know. At least at the start of this video, Matt, when you were sort of listing some of your skepticisms, it sounds like you're lower on this Kansas team. Like, where do you see them ranked even in the national landscape of things? Like, where would you have them slotted?
This is a complete contradiction because I think you framed it well. Of like there are a lot of question marks, but I do think they have a lot of guys who could potentially answer them. So I'm pretty high on this group overall. Like
Oh,
I would
okay.
have them like as a fringe top 10-ish team. Like in that ballpark, I don't know, maybe 8 through 15 is all kind of the same level team to me. But
Yeah.
it just what are the right pieces? I still don't have a great feel for that. I liked when Council was out there because I don't know that this team is really going to shoot enough. That's the question around someone like Peterson. But when you've got Council who can actually get into the paint and collapse the
Hmm.
defense and create a few easier looks for people, I think he's like really important to their success. And he's also a guy that's going to get, some pick sixes and pick up
Right.
defenders at point of attack. So yeah, I think he's important to them a lot.
Yeah, it's funny just based on the different questions you asked and even cited some of the quotes. I'm like, oh, I bet Matt's going to have him like in the 20 to 25 range. I would say I view them similarly, where even though I have questions, it's like, I don't think Bill Self is washed. I
Yeah,
know
same.
he's landed on tough times the past 2 years with some of the roster construction and
Mhm.
even leaning on these stars who didn't pan out or really come anywhere close in some cases with like AJ Storr, Rylan Griffin to living up to their pedigree. But I still think he can coach. And I at least, even though I have questions, I see the vision with how all these pieces fit around Peterson. And the closer and closer we get to the season, I don't know if I'm just like consuming too much Kevin Sweeney propaganda, who's been banging the drum as like I mean, we give Sweeney a hard time because
Yep.
he was like, I told y'all about Darren Peterson, and we thought like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
man,
The
he's a
top three
top three.
guy. Yeah, right. Yeah, you nailed that one.
But Sweeney's greater point has been like, then why does Kansas have its lowest preseason ranking since 2009, I think was the year.
Sure.
And so maybe it's just like talking to Sweeney or like the various college basketball circles we're in where I'm like, man, Peterson is elite, elite, elite. Like he could step onto the court tomorrow and like prove himself as one of the two or three best players in the sport immediately. And just having like the best player on the court in pretty much any game you're going to play, I think gives you such a higher floor than even that 20 to 25 range would be. And as I'm envisioning some of these pieces working out alongside him, whether it's Rosario or Tiller or Badunga taking a leap, it's like, yeah, if Peterson is the goods, which we don't really have any reason to doubt that right
Yeah.
now, this team around him could work really well. And I see that sort of starting to come to the surface, come to the light on Monday night.
I think just the way you build a team with Darren Peterson, like he can be on ball, he can be off ball, he can
Mhm.
shoot, he can drive, he can defend, he's bigger and switchable. Like he gives you a lot of optionality with the team. Whereas the last couple years, you build it around DeJuan Harris, who can't shoot, KJ Adams, who
Mhm.
can't shoot. Then you've got the big man Hunter Dickinson, who can't really defend, and is if he's your best shooter, how good a shooting team are you? So I feel like he was sort of like beholden to these guys that never really made a ton of sense together. Whereas like if you build this team in Darren Peterson's image with like switchable guys who can all attack, pass dribble shoot theoretically, I think this could be like a vintage Bill Self team here, hopefully. And that's what he's banking
Yeah,
on at least.
I mean, I would love to see, we talked a lot about like Dan Hurley revenge season after
Yep.
one down year. I wouldn't rule that out for Self either after two down years, or I mean, I guess it's been since the national title team was only 3 years ago at this point, almost four
It
years ago.
feels a
It's not
lot
like it's
longer
been,
though. Like it's the
yeah,
COVID blur at that point. It's still kind of
right.
lumped in with that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I think just the way he's even moving this offseason with the commitments he's getting is like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, Bill Self. There might be a slight downtick in the type of player he's been able to get. Like I still don't know if this Kansas roster after Peterson on the surface, and let's throw Badunga in there. He was a top 10 recruit once upon a time, but after those two, it's a you don't immediately look at it and think like this is a Kansas caliber roster.
Sure.
And yeah, we don't really know if that was by design with like lower maintenance guys theoretically or better fits around DP versus him maybe taking a slight step back on the recruiting trail. But it seems like he got his mojo back in recent months. Like they're getting commitments left and right. Obviously, landed Tay Kenny, the big fish in this
That's huge.
upcoming
Yeah.
class. But yeah, I just don't. I'm not going to rule out a Bill Self revenge season where he just sort of takes the country by storm. Is like, oh, that's cute. Y'all are picking BYU and Texas Tech and Arizona to outplay me in my league that I built, that I
Sure.
won 15 consecutive years. Nice try. So as we look at this Kansas team, are there any more storylines like you're looking for in this one, or do we want to touch on Green Bay for a second?
Just last thought on that real quick, Riley. You look at the last title team, like as far as I remember, Ochai Agbaji wasn't this like five-star recruit that came in. Like he was kind of a self-made guy. They brought in McCullough after he'd been in a couple places and not really like set the world on fire too. So I think Bill kind of likes these like hard hat lunch pail guys
Hmm.
and could guys like Council and Dawson be those kind of guys for him, or even a Trey White, a revitalization would be huge for them. So I kind of like it. Not a ton else. One of the questions I had is, can Kansas stop LeBron? And I don't know if anyone sees this game, they'll know LeBron Thomas is one of the guards for Green Bay. He's a JUCO All-American, so he's like actually a good player, but he's a 6'4" guard that averaged like 14, 6, and 4. So I don't know, just haven't I actually like you see all the Jalen's out there that supposedly came from Jalen Rose. I've yet to see a LeBron, so that one kind of caught me off guard when I was looking at the roster.
I was thinking about that this is gonna sound like the LeBron line meme, but I truly was thinking about that a few days ago. I was like, huh, I wonder if we'll start to see more LeBrons just
You know,
because we're to the point now where, his debut was over 20 years ago. And while doing prep for this, I'm like, wait, you're telling me that Green Bay has a LeBron? And then I watched his tape and he's this super shifty lefty who's a ton of fun. And I don't think it's gonna translate to a win against Kansas, but maybe he gives you like 18 points or something. Has a little like maybe he's this year's Blake Harper. Remember in Blake
yeah.
Harper's collegiate debut last year against Kansas with Howard, he scored 18 points out of nowhere. It was this kid who was like 6'1" as a freshman in high school who had this crazy growth spurt and became a highly sought after transfer who should start for a top 25 Creighton team this year. And yeah, maybe LeBron has a similar trajectory, but
Just
even
on that
from
real
a
quick, Riley, like
yeah.
Blake is actually from 15 minutes down the street from me. So I was so hyped to see that kid. So I'm glad he's kind of off topic, but I'm glad he's doing
Yeah.
so well.
Oh, so he was a DeMatha guy, right?
Gonzaga, yeah,
Oh, Gonzaga.
pretty
Oh,
close by. Yeah.
shout out to my dog Derek Dixon.
There
But
you go. Yep.
this Green Bay team, when you look at the roster composition, it's a lot of like former D2 and some D3 guys and some JUCO guys. They have like you mentioned Marcus Hall. They have more returners than you would expect from a four-win team. So maybe they can build upon that. Do you happen to know like where they were picked in the preseason in the Horizon? I don't
Uh,
know if you.
I had it here somewhere. I think it was last again, but it's either last or second to last. I do think this team is better. Like they have a little less top end talent. Like you lose Anthony Roy, but there were some distractions that came from his presence on the team. You know, we
Mhm.
hear kind of behind the scenes. They had Isaiah Miranda who just can't figure it out at any of his stops. Like it was just kind of a mess. So this feels like a little more of like Gottlieb's boys kind of group here. He's got Preston Rudiger, who is like, Doug Gottlieb 2025 in his mind, I think that's coming back from last year, like pure point guard. Him versus Darren Peterson is the matchup that nobody knew they wanted, apparently.
And dude, I completely forgot Isaiah Miranda was on that team last year.
Yeah.
Talk about like just a who's who of like a one-time five-star kid who just really had a fall from grace. But even talking about front court players, I forgot about Ramel Bethea, the
Mhm.
29-year-old. Um, did you see that tweet from Gottlieb where he fired off some take about all the G League guys who are trying to come over to the college ranks, and someone called him out for having a 28-year-old on his team, and he corrected him and said 29
Oh yeah,
actually. I thought
exactly.
that was hilarious.
Hey, lean into it at that point. But yeah,
Yeah, for real.
he spent some time in the military after like stocking shelves at a grocery store. He has like this crazy story, but I think he's like actually kind of good. So I'm looking forward to see him just bang around with Flory under the hoop a little bit.
Yeah, I mean he's got a 7'3" wingspan. I have no idea what Miracosta College is, but he nearly averaged a double-double there per Green Bay's website, 12 and 10 last season, or a tick under 10. Um, well, I'll wrap it up with this before we get into predictions. Is there anything that Green Bay can do to either like cover this near 30-point spread or to maybe even hang for like, I don't know, 10 minutes or like make a push early in the second half before Kansas goes on a run and closes the door shut? Like, what are you looking for out of Green Bay to just show you something for some signs of life?
Yeah, if I were them, I would be trying to do your boy Dean Smith's four corners offense and just eat as much shot clock as I can and limit the possessions here because this Kansas team I don't think is going to be like this high octane offense. So if you can just kind of be secure with the ball and maybe make it a little bit of an ugly rock fight, like maybe you can hang in there and keep the score closer than people would predict. Like they might only lose by 18, but they might never be within striking distance or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, there's my thing is just let LeBron cook and see what you have in your
Clear
in your
out
JUCO
LeBron
All-American.
ISOs.
But I do think like I mean that the Blue Ribbon preview on Green Bay had a quote from Gottlieb saying that he thinks LeBron could be the conference player of the year a year from now, which again, throw however many grains of salt you want on that in terms of coach speak, but I feel like when coaches start throwing around conference player of the year awards, especially someone who has like
Yeah.
made a career based on sort of being brash and honest like in
Mhm.
the media what Gottlieb has done, there could be some at least hope and belief and maybe freedom that we're going to see from LeBron. But yeah, don't really expect this one to be super close. I think Kansas rolls to a victory. I'll give you a score prediction. I think Kansas gets to the century mark in this first game, and I'm going to say they win like like 103 to like 65, something like that.
Wow. Last thing on the Gottlieb brashness, he also kind of called out the conference for not having Marcus Hall, their power forward, on the like first team list or whatever. And I'm like, okay, man, like win a few more before you start getting on people. But Hall actually is a good player. I was disgusting as a human, and I watched their Bradley exhibition without even prepping for this, just because. And he actually did stand out. So we'll see. But I think it'll be a little lower scoring. Like I've got like 80 to 58, something like that.
You can see that as well. I'm a little concerned that might be a cry for help that you watched the Green Bay exhibition, but Matt, it was a pleasure doing our first preview together.
Likewise.
Glad to have you on the channel this year.
Thanks, Riley.